What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. The fruit on the trees are starting to swell and the harvests, they're starting to come in. So today, I want to bring you along for a tour and grab some snacks along the way. Let's go! I thought it would be fun to start this video off by giving you an overview of what the whole backyard basically looks like. I'm in the young food forest now. I just walked out of the older food forest. You can see how large a lot of those trees have gotten. I can't wait to take you in there and show you the Bing cherry. The amount of cherries it has this year is it's insane. It's way more than it ever has. So I'm gonna bring you in there. But first, let's start in this front corner here. Let's check out this alleyway where we have a bunch of peaches growing, strawberries, and a whole line of brassicas. First, let's check out some of these brassicas here. As you can see, I've got a lot growing, and I love this section of them. They always seem to do relatively well. They got a lot of early sun, and the brassicas seem to really love that. I've got carrots planted in here too, so we make sure we've got a number of different things planted together, and we've got some companion plants, like the cilantro. These herbs like cilantro and the rosemary, they grow well with the brassicas. We also have some beans and stuff coming up too. So things are doing real well. Soon we'll be getting some cabbages and stuff, and I love fresh cabbages. But one thing that's doing great this year are the fruit trees. They're doing so well, especially some of the peaches. So we've got some nice peaches here. This is a young peach that we just put in 4 years ago. This is the Betty peach. We've got some large peaches and some small ones, so we're gonna do some thinning and leave only the large peaches. But overall, the tree looks excellent. We've got Tuck hanging out in the strawberries here. Some people were asking where he was last video, but sometimes it's just a little hot for this guy out here. Last video it was like 93 degrees or something. So when it's really hot, we make sure we bring out a little bucket of water. So we'll get him some water in a little while. But the strawberries are looking fantastic. You can see they're wilting down a little bit because they need more water. We had a big rain last night, so that'll help a lot. The strawberries will just soak everything in, and the wood chips will help retain a lot of that moisture too. That mulch is really important for your perennials. And we've got this Fuyu persimmon doing real well. Here's another variety of peach that's doing excellent also. You can see some large peaches. It's exactly what we want to see. We have noticed a few spots where we have some peach leaf curl, like you'll notice right here. This is a disease-resistant variety, but it seems to me like when the trees are young in the early spring, they can get some of this curl. Just go around, take the curl off, and throw it into the garbage. You don't want to be spreading it to other sections of the garden, so go out and remove the curl, throw it out. Another thing you want to do with your fruit trees, which is important, is when they're young and you have small branches like these that are just coming out, that's not going to be there in the long run. What you want to do is just remove those branches when they're young. This way you don't have to prune the branches out when they're big and large, and that's not detrimental to the tree. It's a lot less stress, and you won't waste that growth on leaves that you're never going to use. Let me take you to another section of the garden. We'll move along because there's so much to show. I'm going to try to pack it all into a relatively short video, but they always end up longer than I want them to be. So right here we've got some strawberries that are doing really well. They're just on the cusp of starting to be ripe. We're starting to get some coloration in them, and I showed you earlier in the year where I take some red rocks, I put them around the strawberries to try to trick the birds. But when it comes down to it, as I step back, you'll notice there's just too many strawberries between this row and all the other ones I have. I would just need so many rocks. So what I'm going to do this year is I think it's 20 by 30 foot insect netting. I'm gonna try to cover this section with the insect netting just to keep the birds off the strawberries so we can get more harvests. Let's keep moving though. In front of me here, we've got more brassicas planted, looking real nice. I believe these are the Savoy cabbages. We've got carrots next to that. Got a little pepper tucked in. And then we've got some beautiful looking spinach here. Look how well this spinach is doing. Beautiful spinach, especially for the spring, getting a little bit of that filtered shade, which it really likes. Let's move over to another section here where we've got some more brassicas planted, some lettuces and stuff, and more carrots. The thing is, the peas this year have been incredible. So this year the peas have done better than any other year. We're staying on top of the harvest so we can continue to get more and more peas. Look at all these peas here. We're gonna have to harvest a bunch of them. But just to give you an idea, I've got about 4 or 5 rows that look like this. I'll show you more as the video progresses, but we're talking about a crazy amount of peas. And these things are just so sweet and so good. I love eating them at this young stage. The sugar and snaps, the sweet ones, delicious peas. Want a little pea there, Tuck? Looks like Tuck wants some pea too. He loves these things. Me and him both. We'll let him snack on that pea, and I want to show you something right here. We've got some celery planted right here. So celery is one of those plants that likes a lot of moisture, and to make sure we can keep that moisture in, what we're going to do is mulch around this. So I always mulch my garden, but this year I waited basically in a little later into the season, like at this time of the year. Look at Tuck. Tuck's trying to find some carrots. We got some young carrots he's trying to dig up. He smells them, even though they're just small little roots. We'll let him see what he finds. Oh, he's got a little, it looks like a little purple cosmic carrot. We'll let him have fun with that. But this section here, where we're gonna be working on the celery, we need to mulch this celery because it's a water-loving plant. It's almost like a marsh plant. So after we had that really big rain and we're a little further into the season, now that it's getting very warm, I'm gonna mulch around this. So I didn't mulch early in the year because I wanted the ground to heat up. So we'll mulch around this celery and we'll make sure we stay on top of watering it. And one thing you'll notice is look how nice this mulch is. This is, I'll leave a link in the description, but my buddy Kevin at Epic Gardening, I found someone who's actually almost as crazy as me when it comes to gardening. But Kevin at Epic Gardening told me about this mulch, and it's beautiful. It's this small little straw, no seeds, cleaned, sustainable, and really nice stuff. I'll put a link in the description, but it makes mulching easy because it's hard to find good, clean straw. Let's keep moving though. We'll put this straw down and I'm gonna come out and mulch the rest of this section. We've got some broccoli there too. And over here, these beds are looking fantastic, more brassicas and everything planted. But one thing you'll notice is that spinach that I showed you before, and also this spinach right here, they're performing well. They look excellent, but then, because this is the oceanside spinach, this is the right variety. But then as we go right here, we'll notice, look how early this spinach went to seed. That's variety based. So this is one of the varieties that you want to plant later into the fall, not in the beginning of the year, because it'll just go to seed much quicker once the heat comes. So when you're growing spinach in the spring, you want heat tolerant varieties, ones that bolt or go to seed much later. Over here we've got another spinach variety that's good for this time of the year. As you can see, doing real well. And then we've got some beautiful lettuces. This is the bronze mignonette, so I love this one. It's a delicious taste to it, incredible color, and we're gonna be harvesting a lot of lettuce today because we've got a lot to take out. And then next to it I've got another kind of lettuce. This is the romaine right here, so more of a crunchy lettuce. We use those for the Caesar salads and stuff. And then more rows of carrots. And these carrots, we thin these out to 16 per square foot. Then as we move this way, we've got some beautiful looking kale, some huge cabbages here, more kale. And then this is probably the most beautiful kale, I think. This is the dazzling blue. It's a lacinato kale, so it's got that like crinkliness to it, but it's not a curled leaf kale. Look at Tuck moving through here. Tuck, don't dig a hole, boy. He's trying to get into the shade. So good. And then we've got even more peas. Check out the peas. A huge, insane amount. We're continuing to pick the peas when they're young so that they continue to flower. That's very important. A lot of peas. You'll notice right next to it all the grapes too. And if we look this way, we've got that same theme of grapes and peas. And then as the peas finish, I'll come by and plant cucumbers at the base, then we'll grow cucumbers in this section here because soon it'll be too hot for the peas. In this section we have our tomatoes planted. This is the trellis that we built last year. It's doing real well. Here we've got some tomatoes that we put in. This is the goldy yellow tomato. I love this variety. So we've got a bunch of tomatoes in this section, and you'll notice we've got the garlic between that. Let's check out some fruit on the trees though. Let's move over to a section back here where we've got a bunch of apples. The apples are doing real well in the trees. Even the pears are doing well. Here's an Asian pear. Got a number of pears on it. And then we've got some Swiss chard here, a few different varieties, carrots. Then the blueberries this year are crazy. The blueberries are really crazy this year. There's gonna be so many. I need to try to stay on top of watering them as much as I can, but some of the varieties are just, they're insane. Look at the level of production on these. And then as you move up here, we've got apples and stuff right next to us. And then we've got even more blueberries over here. Some of these plants are hilarious. We're in Jersey, we're known for blueberries. And then we move this section, we've got the peach back here too. All these peaches are disease resistant peaches. And then we've got, these are my favorite variety of strawberries we have over here. That's why this is the largest section. And when the strawberries start to spread, I always move these strawberries to another section. These are the Shuckson strawberries. For some reason, I love the flavor. I love everything about them. They're my favorite one. Again, variety is so huge. Let's check out some, now more things we have planted in here. So we've got some Costata Romanesco zucchini. That's my favorite kind of zucchini. And we've got some sunflowers in between that. And then zucchini, sunflower, that combo. So we have the tall sunflowers, and then zucchinis trellising along the bottom. So we're following this idea of using as much space as we possibly can, utilizing the vertical space. Then in this section right here, we've got the terrace bed that I just built. So this is all planted out. Things are doing really well. You'll notice this section gets more shade than some of the other sections. So we've made sure we've planted knowing that. So things are looking beautiful. Now let me take you to probably the best looking section of the whole entire garden. This is the Birdie's raised bed, and this thing is awesome. I'm definitely gonna be getting a couple more. If you guys want one, they're so worth it in my opinion. But I'll put a coupon code for you guys, coupon code TUCK, but it's I'll put the link in the description. Look at the size of some of these brassicas. And the lettuces in there. I'm gonna have to cut another one of these out. Look at this head. Let's take this one. Beautiful head of lettuce. And we've got three more just like that, 2 more in there, so we're gonna have as many salads as we could basically eat. That's why we garden. That's why we grow our own food, because it's delicious, it's good for you, and when you grow a lot, it's almost unlimited. Let's move over into the old food forest now. Check out some of these cherries, some of these fruit trees, and just more of the veggies and everything. So the first thing I want to show you is the big cherry tree. This thing is, it's so beautiful. I can't wait for the cherries to start changing color, and they're just about to. As you come over here, you'll notice a lot of the cherries are starting to get that yellowish color right before they turn red. You can see some nice ones right here, and they're just starting to get that pink. I'm so excited to be eating some of these, but the one thing is the birds. You know, just in a short amount of time, the birds can come through and strip a lot of these cherries. So we're gonna do our best to deter them with some hanging CDs, maybe a scarecrow, a bunch of different ideas. So we're gonna see what works, because we wanna make sure we're eating as many cherries as possible, because there's nothing like sweet cherries that are fresh and ripe. I'm gonna have a couple that I have on a black Tartarian that's ready over there. That variety is a little earlier. And that goes back to the fruit trees and basically whatever you're planting. You wanna grow varieties that are early, mid-season, and late when it comes to blueberries, strawberries, or cherries, or whatever it is. As you'll notice right here, we've got a bunch of thyme on the ground. And when it comes to the herbs in the garden, I like to just plant the herbs throughout the garden. So I've got thyme here, I've got rosemary in other sections, and it looks like Tuck might want a little bit of water. Want some water, boy? So we'll let him get some fresh water. This way he's not drinking any sitting water anywhere, because we did just have some rain. And then as we go over here, you'll notice we've got another cherry tree, which is a younger cherry and a much later one. So the cherries on here look like they're doing well, but they're much smaller because it's just a later fruiting cherry. So if you're in a section that gets early frosts, you might want to plant some varieties of things like peaches that are late varieties instead of ones that flower really early. In this section, we've got the pallet raised bed that we built just out of pallets, you know, about last year. Things are doing real well. We've got our tomatoes and stuff in here, and then we've got so much lettuce again. We'll cut another head out, but it's going to be tough to eat all this in one day. Look at this. Look at these heads. It's so beautiful in my opinion. It's the benefits of growing the things yourself. You get to have your hand in everything, and you just get to be a part of the whole entire system. So my appreciation for food and nature really came out when I got into gardening, because I realized, you know, once I got my hand in every little piece of it, it meant more, it tasted better, and just changed everything for me. So let me take in this section back here where we have blueberries planted, and these things are just loaded with blueberries too. This is a new variety, a new section that we planted out not long ago, but we're already getting nice production out of it, as you'll notice. And then over here, we've got some beautiful looking apples. This is the Honeycrisp. So I'm hoping we get some excellent apples on here. They have some, look at this beautiful color. So we've been spraying these with the Surround kaolin clay, and that's just a protectant. But if you want to spray your plants with clay, you can't just use regular kaolin clay. The Surround kaolin clay is very important because it's super, super fine. And the only way they can get it that fine is with a magnetic centrifuge. So that's why it's so expensive. So if you're gonna use the clay spray, make sure you get the Surround, the right stuff, because it makes a difference. In this section, we've got an incredible amount of weeds coming up, because this was where the chicken area was until we extended it. But you'll notice what's coming up in here. If you've got the eye to see, there's a lot of good things in here. We're not gonna keep any of them, but there's an unlimited amount of tomatoes coming up. You'll notice right here, we've got some lamb's quarters. This is the wild spinach. We've got some amaranth, and we've even got some mustard greens and stuff in here. Look at these, or the choice, Asian greens. So just in this little section, there's a lot of food. But we're just gonna remove a lot of this and compost it. And let's continue through the food forest walkthrough though, because there's still a lot to show. I call this a permaculture food forest, and a lot of people wonder what permaculture is. Permaculture is nothing new. It's essentially just the arrangement of things that have always been there into a pattern that has a form of cooperation and is harmonic, has harmony with everything else around it. That's really important, that idea of harmony and everything working together. Right here we've got some chamomile planted, beautiful flower, and this is a great herb too. A lot of the flowers we plant are also multifunctional, where they're herbs as well, like the chamomile, like the echinacea. And then even just around here, we've got some more stuff. Strawberries fruiting on the outside of the bed. As we move into the bed, we've got more lettuces, brassicas, kind of that same theme, celery. We've got a lot of peppers and basil planted in here too. And then more and more peas. So we're trying to keep up on eating the peas, but it's getting tough. In this section, we've got a lot of radishes and things planted. So when it comes to these radishes, these are such a cool crop because it's like I've talked about it before, it's like a tool utility crop. We just use these radishes and plant them. Now we're gonna eat radishes. Look at this, beautiful white icicles. We've got more in here. I'm gonna harvest a bunch of these, I'll show you. Look at the radishes here. So we'll harvest these and then plant our peppers. So we've got the double yield out of that one section. Let's keep moving though. Tuck will probably want a snack on one of these. Little radish boy. Yeah, we'll let him have some fun with the radish. Then underneath our Prigioni apple, we've got the currants. And you'll notice these are the white. These are my favorite currants. These are getting close under here. So these won't be long till they're starting to ripen and be ready. And then the Prigioni apple is looking fantastic. It has unlimited amount of apples on it. So when it comes to this tree, it's a full-size tree, so I'm constantly trying to prune it to keep it small because it's tough to. Then we've got this peach tree over here, one of our older trees that's looking really healthy. It's got a lot of peaches on it. It does need to be thinned a little bit, but soon I'll be removing some of these peach trees, these older ones, because when it comes down to it, peaches are really only productive for about like 12 years and the production really drops off. But that's okay because we have all the other peaches in the new garden that we planted, almost on this staggered timing, so that we're always going to be getting peaches even when we replant these new ones. Let me show you the grapes behind us over here too. And there's raspberries and more stuff to show, but I'm just gonna start with these grapes over here. Look at this. This is one of my favorite sections, walking through here when the grapes are hanging down, bumping your head in the grapes and stuff. These are the Niagaras over here, the greens, and the Catawbas are behind me. Right here is a Rainier cherry. This cherry isn't doing as well as the other ones. It does have some cherries. Some are falling off, but it's just not doing as well as some of the others. So I think it needs a little water, maybe a little fertilizer underneath it, some compost or something. And then this cherry, we have some actual beautiful ripe cherries. So this is the Black Tartarian. That's why I have this ladder here. You'll notice some of these cherries up here. The birds haven't found them yet because they're getting hidden from the other tree. So, they got a couple I can see. But the cherries are really ready when they start falling off. I'm just gonna grab a couple early ones. The birds are already starting to eat them, so maybe I should eat them a little too. You can see the birds. This one's just not quite ready, but I don't think I can wait any longer. Let's try it. So good, and it's so great that you can just eat it right off the tree. We don't have to worry about that kaolin clay really. It's you should wash it off probably, but it's just clay, so we're not worried about it. Check out this hazelnut too. This thing has just gotten massive. I think it's probably doubled in size since last year, and I'm so excited for this because this hazelnut has a lot more fruit than it ever has. And last year, the other hazelnut is the one that had all the fruit. This one looks like it is the one with all the nuts this year, which is huge in my opinion because these hazelnuts, they're larger in size than the other one. They're like a little wider and much longer. So it's gonna be unique to be able to see how many and how big the hazelnuts actually get on this tree, as opposed to this one, which we had a lot of nuts on last year, but they were blanks, which was such a tease. Next, we have this Asian pear tree over here, and this is one of my staples. I always show it because I love it, and it always produces well for me. It's not a big tree, but it's got a big heart, and it produces a big amount of fruit usually. We're letting the asparagus now go to make ferns so they can build the roots for next year. We've been eating asparagus for weeks and weeks now, so we're gonna let that slow down. And persimmon, the fuyu, is just loaded with fruit. And this thing's basically doubled in size since last year too. So fruit trees, you gotta put them in. I love doing it. I mean, everyone knows the saying that you should put it in 7 years ago, but I don't see fruit trees as like, you know, as a normal person maybe would see it as just a tree. I see it more as like an investment in your future wellness, an investment in your health. It's planting the seed for opportunity for a better diet in the future. You know, to be able to come out, eat this food yourself, grow it yourself, have that connection, it's just rewarding in so many different ways in my opinion. But look at these echinaceas below me. This follows that same theme, kind of what I was talking about, where our flowers are also herbs, and we just let these just move throughout the garden as much as they can and self-seed. Plus, the eastern goldfinch, which is the state bird here, they love the seeds from these. So we like seeing the eastern goldfinch in the garden. It's one of the things I've mentioned a lot too. It goes back to the cherries. The birds are one of the things we're competing with a little bit in here because it's a food forest. This is a food paradise. This is a food paradise for me, for you, but for every other animal too. So we're always dealing with some pests and stuff. It's what makes it fun. I think it's what makes it kind of all worth it. Let's check out the side garden though. We've got some blueberries and stuff to check out. Loaded. Over at the side garden now, you can see this young sweet cherry. It's got a lot of cherries on it. I'm probably being too greedy because this is a lot of cherries for how small the tree is, but I'll stay on top of watering it and giving it a little fertilizer and stuff, taking care of it, trying to get as much fruit as we possibly can. And the blueberries are, like I mentioned, they've got so much fruit on them, but I do need to make sure I stay on top of watering and feeding these things so that can actually produce this much fruit. And I actually pruned the berries more than I have in the past. So I tried to open up a lot of the light underneath here, doing some pruning in the off season to get to encourage more of the new healthy growth. Back here we've got another Asian pear doing well. And the Asian pears are my favorite pears when it comes down to it, so that's why I have more Asian pears planted than the regular ones. Then back here we've got the black cap raspberries, almost in production. You can see all the berries. Again, this is why we call it the fruit garden, or the food forest that specializes in berry production, because there's just so many berries over here. So we're gonna have to make sure that we, like I mentioned, continue watering, but we are supposed to get a good amount of rain coming up, which should be good for the berries. Let's keep moving a little more over here through the blueberries. One thing you'll notice, especially probably through other years too, is I've got some more weeds on the ground than I ever have. I'm doing my best to keep up with it, but right now I'm kind of transitioning where I've been focused a lot on the growth of the plants and transplanting things into the ground. Now that a lot of my stuff is planted, I'm going to transition over to maintenance and care. So that has to do with weeding, mulching more, wood chipping. So it's always like a transition from one thing to the next. Just as the seasons change, so our approach in the garden must change also. It makes sense. So this blueberries, this is the craziest one, I think. Look at it. Just monster. And if you'll notice down inside the blueberry, I have been putting some compost and some homemade soil down there to try to make sure I feed it every time we get a good rain. And we've got some more blueberries over here, as you see, just so beautiful. And over here is also the apple that I'm really excited for. It still looks like it has some decent apples. This is the red cord apple. This is the Almada red. So we're hoping for some good apples from here. And then underneath us, we just have, you know, strawberries, because you know we're crazy. We always got more and more strawberries to plant. So there's always some gifts, you know, underneath some kind of leaves when you're in the Prigioni berry garden. So let's taste how this thing is. When it comes to the strawberries, I like to just take the back off. This way I can eat the whole entire thing. So sweet, so juicy. Just overall, incredible food. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you take the time to get out there to get some stuff in the ground if you don't already. If you don't have a fruit tree, get one of those in. If you don't have a food forest, start planting it. It just starts with one tree into the ground. It's just the way sometimes you look at it. It's not just a fruit tree. It's the first tree in the start of a food forest. It's the first tree in the start of a better future, a better diet for you. That's how I like to look at it, at least. And I make these videos to encourage you guys to get out there to do the same thing. I'm not really trying to teach too much in these videos or anything, because when it comes down to it, nature is a teacher. And we love hanging out in here because the forest is the classroom. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends. Don't forget to check out the merch down low. And remember, whenever you're on Amazon, start your shopping with our Amazon affiliate link. I just wanted to thank, before this video is over, Mary for her continued support, Mary Young. Thanks for being a channel member. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Me and Tuck really appreciate it. And we'll be back to you guys again real soon. You can see Tuck just hanging out under there. it's getting hot out here. Now the sun's really coming out, so he's just relaxing. But me and Tuck will be back at you guys again real soon. We